Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is James Kalkors, and first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for being here this evening. I'd also like to thank our host and our sponsors for putting this event together, as well as Mr. Gettler for moderating this evening. Tonight, you're going to hear a lot about a lot of different issues that are concerning our district, and ranging from closing corporate loopholes to economic gardening and women's rights and rolling back the sales tax. But I think the most important issue of all is selecting the best candidate who is going to represent you for the next 2 years in the State House. And I believe that individual is me. Of all the candidates, I have the most experience, education, and history in this district to be the most effective state senator when elected. As a homeowner, business owner, husband, and father of 2, I know how important it is to make the right decisions and not just the politically expedient or partisan ones. I thank you, and I look forward to your support on Election Day.
Excellent. Now, Jim, you may not have picked up on is getting signals here from the front row. The candidates will be given a certain time frame and will be warned when their time is up. So this is also a great practice for that skill. Sean?
Thank you. I'd also like to welcome everyone for being here. Mr. Gettler, the Eagle Tribune, and all the Chambers of Commerce is here tonight. Briefly, some of my background: I was born in Methuen. I'm the youngest of 5. I grew up in the Tower Hill section of Lawrence. My parents were separated and divorced when I was very, very young. I was 2 years old. My mother, who's here tonight, I owe a great deal to her, who set the example by working extremely hard to keep our family together. Today, I live in Haverhill and I've been married to Tatum Ryan for the last 14 years. We have 2 wonderful children who attend Haverhill Public Schools. I believe that my business experience, coupled with my 9 years of political service on the Haverhill School Committee, as well as the Woody of OTEC, will make me a productive member of the Senate. And it also has taught me on how important to create jobs and provide fiscal discipline that I think is lacking in Beacon Hill. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Kathleen O'Connor-Ives, and I'd like to share with you a little bit about my background and what motivates me to run for state senate. I was born in Boston, and I was raised in Chelsea, Malden, and Burlington, Mass. My mother's a retired Chelsea school teacher, my father's a carpenter, and my brother retired from the Air Force after 20 years of service, and my sister's a proud mom. Our parents worked hard every day to try to make our lives better, and it worked. I had the opportunity to go to Mount Holyoke College with the help of work-study program and scholarships. I'm the first person in my family to graduate from law school. And I feel very strongly that that opportunity is harder and harder for people today. I believe the next state senator can make a real difference in changing that course so the Merrimack Valley can maintain and create jobs and be a hub for tourism, talent, and innovation. I'm currently in the middle of my 3rd term in the Newburyport City Council. I work with Democrats, Republicans, and Independents in an environment of mutual respect. I want to take that approach to Beacon Hill and get to work. Thank you.
Next, Paul.
I am Paul Magliochetti, and I want to be your next senator in the 1st Essex District. I live in Haverhill with my wife Julie and 3 children, Massimo, Isabella, and Lucas. As the Vice President of the Haverhill School Committee and parent of children in the Haverhill Public Schools, I have intimate knowledge of our state education system. As a lawyer, small business owner, and director on local boards, I understand the economy. I am the only candidate in this race who has owned and operated a small family manufacturing business, and I'm currently a partner in one of the oldest and most respected law firms in the district. As your senator, I will help build a strong economy by bringing back manufacturing and rolling back income tax and state sales tax. As your senator, I will propose education reform that focuses on classroom learning and ensures a skilled workforce. As your senator, I will propose real welfare reform that requires daily reporting to unemployment offices and EBT card reform. As your senator, I will fight for affordable health insurance through tort reform and open markets for all. I am Paul Magliochetti, your independent candidate for state senate.
Thank you very much, candidates. One of the things that certainly I believe, and we believe, you know, as an entity in the Eagle Tribune, is the lack of discourse that we are currently seeing in government. So tonight we really do hope for some strong discourse, respect, good answers, and an opportunity for not only the questions that are pre-formed tonight to be asked in this 1st round, to answer some of your questions that you've submitted. So let's get right into it and start with our first question. This question goes to seat 1, candidate 1. The rebut comes from candidate 2, and so on down the line, just to remind you of the format. The 2010 Economic Stimulus Plan provides for certain programs designed to boost community growth by supporting investment from business, startups, artists, and cultural organizations. These are important sectors of Amesbury's economy. What specific steps will you take to help our community leverage its infrastructure assets and attract investment monies sufficient to achieving our goals for increased tourism, job creation, and small business growth?
Well, I think small business growth is definitely the backbone of the community and certainly the backbone of the Merrimack Valley. I mean, we have a rich tradition and history of small business and manufacturing and industry and commerce here in the Merrimack Valley. So I think it's very important moving forward to continue that. And I think as a state senator, one of my duties will be to be fiscally smart and to also appropriate funding when available, where available, to businesses to assist in the startup costs. And we can do that by improving sidewalks like we have done in Amesbury. The Lower Mill Yard redevelopment project, which I've been very happy to have taken part of, and with the assistance of former Senator Stephen Bedore and Rep. Michael Costello, we were able to get necessary funds there to invest in Lower Mill Yard that will create jobs and really create an economic boom for Amesbury's future. So that's what I hope to bring to the State House, and I think I have the experience and ability to be able to do so most effectively. Thank you.
Mr. Chu, you have to rebut.
Thank you. I just want to answer the question by simply saying that not only Amesbury, along with the whole First Essex District, we talk about rolling back the sales tax. That's an imperative that needs to happen. As far as marketing the district, having a sales and marketing company since 1998, I think we need to collectively work together with local city officials on all the mayors along the First Essex District to put a sound marketing plan together to promote the type of investments that is needed throughout the district. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that first question was provided by the Amesbury Chamber of Commerce. The second question is supplied by the Newburyport Chamber of Commerce. Candidate 2. The Attorney General issued a report last year that showed a disparity in payments of as much as 200% for alleged services at different hospitals. Well, according to the report, the Merrimack Valley hospitals are the lowest paid in the state. Over the last several years, in an attempt to address this issue, the House and Senate have worked on policies to regulate payment from private insurance to hospitals, but no agreement has been reached and nothing has been passed. What is your position on government's role versus general market conditions as it relates to this issue?
Well, that is a serious issue. I mean, and tapping into the pool that was available is certainly draining on the economy. We need to take a look at not only that issue, but also the unfunded, the mandates that have been placed from Governor Patrick that's in excess of $1.3 billion. But we really need to put together, in my opinion, a commission that reviews a lot of these individuals that are coming from out of state, coming into the hospitals, into this region, and then leaving without tracking. And I think that's really draining, which essentially is driving up premiums across the board on the other end. So I would like to see us to get serious work together in the legislature to form a commission to really hone down and have more oversight on those individuals and work very, very closely with these hospitals that are so important to the region. Thank you.
Thank you. I really strongly believe that our community hospitals are a critical component to the economic viability of our district. We have a number of important hospitals, most in close proximity to me, the Anna Jakes. And I do believe that the state senator and government has a role to play to make sure that the reimbursement rates are fair, because otherwise our community hospitals are going to be at a great disadvantage. And they are some of the largest employers in the whole district. So it's in our own interest to have them available for our own medical needs, but to also support that economic workforce that comes in and every day and cares for our community. So I think that we need to continue that tradition where our state senators have had strong relationships with the leadership in our community hospitals to make sure that we're there to listen and address their concerns.
Okay, this is for candidate 3. Salisbury Chamber of Commerce has submitted this question. The Governor's Commission for Public Housing Reform has issued a recommendation to regionalize the state's small public housing authorities in an economy of scale, but that means that small towns will lose local control on major issues. These included hiring staff, budget priorities, capital planning, and policy issues unique to that community. How do you find a balance between reaching efficiency of operations and local control?
I'm glad. I'm going to leave. I wasn't sure. I think that it's all about striking a balance because I'm a big proponent of local control, and that does go all the way to local housing authorities. There are instances when you have a very tiny housing authority, and perhaps there should be some consolidation in those instances, and that makes sense for economies of scale. But I think that when you have examples where there's been a lot of controversy in communities, not to name names, but in Chelsea and some other communities where we've seen that there's been problem in public housing and the leadership, and I don't think every public housing authority should pay the price for that. Local control is serving local needs, and I think that that's really critical. So I don't think that that solution is ideal. I think it's too broad of a brushstroke to really deal with the nuances. So, everyone's trying to stretch their dollars in this situation to try to make them more efficient, but sometimes they just need more money to do their jobs well. So I think it has to be a balance where the small communities consolidate, but medium and large sizes stay local.
Okay, Rico, please.
Whenever I hear the words regionalization or consolidation in government, my antennas go up. When you hear those words intuitively, you always think of it's a way to save money, make things more efficient. Unfortunately, with government, that's not always the case. Sometimes when they do these kinds of regionalizations and consolidations, you end up with more government, and you have more government involvement, which is not what we need. When it comes to housing, housing is a very local issue. There's no way housing in Salisbury equates to housing in Haverhill. It's a very distinct and individualistic concept. So I do not favor this regionalization. I think it needs to stay local. But one thing I would look at would be getting some private nonprofits involved in this sector to try to help out. I think this is one area where we may have too much government involvement right now, and maybe we have some other kinds of privatization that could actually do the job better and more efficiently. And that's the kind of thing we need to look at in this area.
Okay. As a reminder, this next question is yours, Paul, and the rebuttal is yours. Okay. This is from the Haverhill Chamber of Commerce. Paul Revelle, the Massachusetts Secretary of Education, recently said about the new teacher evaluation requirement, and I quote, "The main goal is to help teachers get high-quality feedback on their teaching so that they can improve their performance and help students learn at higher rates. Almost anybody in the world needs feedback periodically on their performance." End quote. Do you agree with this evaluation requirement? And what are other educational goals and initiatives that are important to you?
Accountability is very important, not only with education, but with all areas of government. We have to hold all municipal employees and all government officials accountable. Evaluations are an important tool in that regard. However, when you look at evaluations of teachers, I have several concerns. One of them is, who's doing the evaluations? If you have, some of our administrators have minimal teaching experience. They may have 3 or 4 years teaching 5th grade English, and now they're expected to go and evaluate a high school science class. I don't think that's proper. You have to make sure that you have checks and balances in place so you have the proper supervision over the evaluations. That's the only way that this works. And then you can use it as a tool. But I have a lot of concerns over how this is going to be implemented. And it's something we have to be aware of, and we have to watch it carefully. In the city of Haverhill, we just approved this evaluation policy, and we're going to see how it plays out, but I do have concerns.
Okay.
Well, I think evaluations in any type of profession are excellent, whether they be in the private sector, public sector. I mean, we need evaluations, and I agree with Mr. Revel, because you know what? The only way to see how somebody is doing is to get feedback. So I think it's important, and I would leave that to the schools to make that decision as to who has the ability to make and proper decision to make those types of evaluations. I disagree a little bit with Mr. Megalicetti. I don't think that we would have individuals in that position make decisions with very little to no experience about somebody else with that high level of experience. It just doesn't make sense whatsoever. But investing in our schools, making sure our schools are strong, and that means investing in teacher evaluations and making sure teachers are held accountable is the only way that we're going to make sure that our students can compete globally. And I know that from experience, having 3 degrees myself, a few credits shy of a 4th degree. It's very important that we compete globally and offer the education possible. Thank you.
Okay, very good. That completes our pre-formed question part of this discussion. We'll come back later on if there's time to hit a few more. And I may even come back and just bring up some of the topics that seem to have some cross-sections of opinions. So, but for now, we'll leave this portion of it and get to the audience questions. And I will say that most of the handwriting is very clear. So most, if I fumble over words, it seems like it's my fault, not yours. So there you go. All right, question number 1. All right, now let me change format here for a second. Yes. You're going to give on this round? Okay. All right, I've been told we're going to give them 2 minutes on this round. Timekeeper, 2 minutes. All right. All right, good. So now if I can just remind everybody that candidate 1 will be given this question. Candidate 3 will rebut. Okay, so we're skipping over the person to your immediate left and mixing it up a bit. Okay? But again, I encourage discourse. The state continues to fill hotels and motels and shelters with homeless families, and poverty continues to increase for those who still have homes. What will you do to help alleviate poverty, even as the federal government retrenches?
You know, I'm glad I got this question because I just had this discussion last Thursday night at the Salisbury Chamber of Commerce with a former educator from the Amesbury school system, and I was shocked at the number of homelessness in our region. It actually encouraged me to brainstorm over the past couple of days ways in which to help offset this problem, especially in towns within the Merrimack Valley and within this district. Because we do, unfortunately, and in this society, have a very high number of homeless folks. I had a discussion with Ms. Smith from the Pettingale House and trying to come up with ways in which to support their organization. They do a wonderful job of supporting the homeless, of finding shelter for those who are transients, who don't have what they call a permanent address. It's a serious problem, and I think what we need is a collective effort. We need individuals like Mr. Murray, who indicated to me last Thursday night on this problem, to inform folks like me that we do have these issues in our community, and we really need the effort of not just myself running for office, but individuals out there to look out for our brothers and sisters and make sure that they have proper shelter, because nobody should be homeless, nobody should be hungry, and we should really support these organizations such as the Pettingale House and our Neighbors Table, and there should be more of them. And I think that's just, you know, another reason why we need to work on expanding the commercial industrial base, getting more jobs available to folks, getting them trained, getting them out of homelessness, getting them out of welfare, and getting them back to work. It's very, very important. That'll be one of my goals as your next state senator. Thank you.
I see the issue of homelessness as a real call to action for our state government to be even more nimble and more efficient and more effective than it ever has been. It is only one accident or one medical crisis or one lost job away for some people to be in that exact situation, which seems so foreign. It's something where we've experienced with the subprime mortgage crisis, or people having not enough work and being underemployed. So it's something that we should all be able to relate to. And government has a role to play, because if we look at the budget and assess that there is no waste and there is not a duplication of efforts and there is a streamlining of both agencies and processes so that funding is released to be able to be either infused in local communities so that it can be utilized, whether it's our local health programs or our public school systems, or we're able to make sure that our programs at the state level are even more efficient to make it available for people who might not have needed something like transitional assistance 2 years ago, and here they find themselves having it relevant to them. So I think it's a real mandate for the next state senator to make sure that all of our money is being spent wisely so that we are doing all that we can to make sure that our social and human services are serving the needs of the people of the Merrimack Valley.
Okay, so Sean, this question is for you, and Paul, this is your rebuttal. Okay. What is the greatest economic opportunity in the Merrimack Valley?
Well, I see the economic opportunity is for us to go back and do a couple of things. I think we need to push back again the income tax to really jumpstart the economy. Sales tax, we need to roll back as well. We really also need to help this economy. Katie just touched on a little bit about being efficient. I believe in zero-based budgeting, a measure that was led by Senator Tarr and then Senator Bador, the seat we're pursuing here tonight, and get back to basics and making sure that we are fiscally prudent in what we're doing so that we can allocate the proper resources to the right areas. We've seen that. The mismanagement and the lack of fiscal prudency in the legislature. And the reason that is, quite frankly, is the lack of a two-party system. Out of a 40-member Senate, we have only 4 Republicans. I'm hopeful that after this campaign, I'll be number 5, but that's the driving force, in my opinion, to jumpstart the economy. This will help smarter and provide an smarter economic growth. Thank you.
I couldn't disagree more with what Mr. Toohey said. I don't understand the logic. Zero-based budgeting in government means that you think that government can help spur economic growth. I don't think that's how it works. I think economic growth comes from the private sector. Government can help facilitate some things, but the government budget doesn't really have any impact on it. I would focus on manufacturing. We have to bring back manufacturing. That's what creates jobs. You have a 3-channel supply chain when you have manufacturing. You have the manufacturer, you have the part suppliers to the manufacturer, and you have the raw material supplier to the manufacturer. You're increasing by 300% the number of economic agencies that you have out there, and you're growing the economy by that much. That's what we have to do. My plan is to use something like economic gardening. Right now, if you're a small business in the Commonwealth and you want to get some assistance or some guidance, you don't even know where to go. We've created so many commissions and agencies that it's a maze. You get confused. A small business owner, even lawyers and accountants don't know where to start. We need to channel these resources to one agency. You start at the Economic and Planning Office in City Hall. They have a direct line to this one agency at the State House. That one agency at the State House, you fill out a 2-page form that's similar to a business plan. They get you in touch with the local banks, and it's all done through the private sector. Maybe they'll guarantee a loan for you. Maybe there'll be some grant funds available for seed funding or to get your company growing. But you have to streamline, and you have to make it easier for these small businesses and the entrepreneurs in this community to get started in business and grow their business. This starts and ends with manufacturing in the private sector, and that's where we have to focus our resources and our energy. Government cannot cure this, okay? It's got to be done through the private sector. You can only use government to channel energy towards the private sector. Thank you.
Now, just to keep the confusion at a minimum, it is candidate 3's question and candidate 1's rebuttal. Okay? A quick question and a direct question. What are the environmental challenges that our district has in the next 2 years?
I think that whenever there's an economic downturn, the instinct is to push environmental standards at the wayside, and I think that the challenge for our state is to maintain our decent environmental standards, which directly results in clean air and clean water and a safe environment for our residents, our children. And it's actually a preventative health strategy to make sure that we maintain a healthy environment. So I think that it takes leadership in government to say, you know what, economic development and environmental standards go hand in hand to promote our economy and to make our quality of life attractive for other people to invest and live in our community. But that message has to be articulated when legislation is being proposed and when decisions are being made. And what I really want to do is that hard work to communicate with the residents in every city and town in our district when policies are introduced at the state senate level and get input from people. What are your concerns? Do you think this is a good option? And how does it relate to us? Because I'm not familiar with many environmental policies that actually disturb or decrease our quality of life. We have to get rid of the types of regulations that actually are bureaucratic, hinder economic growth, and all regulation can't be thrown into one bucket. Some are very good, some are very bad and onerous and actually impede economic growth, and we have to make that distinction. And it takes effort to do that research, read the legislation, find the merits, the good and the bad of these things, and I want to do that work. Thank you.
Well, I agree with Canada Dives on a couple of issues. I disagree with it that we do push environmental issues to the wayside in a bad economy. As a practicing attorney and a small business owner with a lot of experience in working in cities and towns within the I can tell you right now, we do not push economic standards aside. In fact, if the cities and towns do, the DEP will be all over you. So that is not the case. But I think what we really need to do is we need to take this opportunity and this down economy and capture, opportunities that are available to us that are going to lessen our carbon footprint on this earth and really create some good economic industry and growth in the field of energy. One of Ms. Ives' fellow city councilors and I have spoken at length about issues concerning solar. Salisbury has gone solar. We have a lot of areas and land available within the cities of Amesbury, Newburyport, Haverhill, and Methuen, and some of the other neighboring towns in which we can install solar panels to help power some of the schools. I think that's a smart way that we can both reduce the carbon footprint and reduce our energy costs, and in turn reduce our budget in Amesbury and in some of the other towns, and invest in the education that our students deserve. I mean, one of the things that we have come up all the time is arguments over, how much, and I'm about to go to that meeting this evening because right after this I have a finance committee meeting in Amesbury as part of the city council. But we're talking about contractual increases right now. One of the ways to make up the differences and to supply the budgets and to make up these contractual increases is to lessen costs in other areas. And I think this is one of the best ways to look at both increasing jobs and reducing the amount of carbon footprint that we have by clean energy.
Okay, very good. Okay, so Paul, this is your question, and Sean, this is your rebuttal. Okay. Paul, would you consider rolling back the Massachusetts tax to 5%?
Absolutely. I've been saying that from the beginning. And I never thought it should have been raised to begin with. I would roll it back. That in and of itself would actually spur some of the economic growth. We need to look at all our tax laws, okay? We need to really do an analysis as a senator. We don't need a commission or anything. We just, as public servants, as senators, as representatives, we really need to look at the tax code, and we need to look at what our businesses need. What can we do to make starting a business in Massachusetts, in the 1st Essex District, beneficial to you? What will keep you here instead of going across the border to New Hampshire, going across the border to Maine? We want to keep businesses here. We want to make sure startups happen here. So we need to look at not only we have the income tax, the sales tax. I was having coffee this morning up in Merrimack, and the lady was talking to me about the meals tax. We need to look at that. We need to be a little creative, and maybe you don't necessarily reduce the number like with the meals tax, but maybe you have a graduated plan. Maybe when you're starting up a business, maybe you don't pay any meals tax for a few months, and then you pay a percentage of it, and then you work your way up to paying the full amount. You've got to help these small businesses. These people that are creating these laws and developing all this legislation and all this bureaucracy in government, they don't understand how hard it is for a small business. These small business owners are working paycheck to paycheck. It's no different than any other family worker or employee anywhere else. They're not all wealthy. And they take home what they need to make their mortgage payments, to pay for their gas to get to work. And then at the end of the day, sometimes they find themselves short when it comes time to pay whatever taxes they need to pay. These considerations need to be taken into account. So I would roll back the tax, look at the complete tax structure to see how we can maybe phase it in different areas. And the other thing I would look at is a graduated sales tax so that we have a reduced rate on the border towns with the Thank you.
I've been saying for all along my myself as a candidate and a Republican candidate that reducing the sales and meals tax is paramount. However, based on the sales tax discussion that just took place, I'm a little confused about what Mr. Magliocchetti just indicated about the sales tax and how important it is to businesses in that border the New Hampshire area. He's absolutely true. That is a critical component for those businesses that border New Hampshire. But I think it's somewhat hypocritical for someone to tout rolling back the sales tax when he himself, when you look at his campaign finance report, purchased items out of state. So I think it's somewhat hypocritical for someone to say they want to roll it back, but at the same time they're not practicing what they preach. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to move on to what we what we consider extra questions that are outside of our allotted time frame. And what I am going to do is just reverse the order. So I'm going to start with Paul, and then you will rebut Kathleen, and then you, and then Sean. You got it. I'll keep you on task. I'm going to start this way. Okay. Okay. What is your opinion on verification of resident status prior to eligibility of DTA benefit approval?
When you say resident status, you're talking about Massachusetts or national?
I am going to just assume on behalf of the person asking this question without calling them out that they're talking about U.S. citizens.
Okay. If you are not a registered person in the United States, whether it's a green card, whether it's citizenship or whatever, you shouldn't get any benefits. You need to go through the process. I never understood this. You have people that don't have any paperwork, that are here illegally. They get into a traffic accident or they get pulled over by police, and there's never no one ever picks up on it. They show up in court. They get prosecuted by the DA maybe for a traffic violation. No one at the court looks up on it. They pay a fine, they leave, they go home, they get back behind the wheel of a car. They don't have a license, they don't have a green card, they don't have any paperwork. I mean, it's mind-boggling. I don't understand. There's such a disconnect between the federal government, the state government, and the local law enforcement agencies. You would think that there would be some kind of a line, especially in this day and age, where with all the technology that we have. Look, I am for immigrants coming to the United States. My parents were immigrants that came here for a better life, and they did. They succeeded here. They worked hard. My dad worked 2, 3 jobs sometimes. My mother worked. She worked at Lucent Technology. She started as a bench worker. She worked her way up to be a full engineer. She was certified by her colleagues at Lucent. You know, my whole family, I have my uncles here in the audience. One's a licensed plumber. You know, the other one did very well in real estate. He worked as a foreman in the shoe industry. You know, these people come here, if they want to work hard and they want to contribute, I see no reason why they should be able to file some paperwork and stay here, abide by our laws. But the bottom line is, if you want to get any benefits, you're going to have to pay your dues, and you're going to have to become an American citizen, or at least, at the very least, do some kind of transactional or information disclosure where we know who you are and where you're staying and everything else. Thank you.
Touched upon an important distinction, and that is we have people that come to America and they want to contribute versus people that come to America and harm takes place, whether you know, there's criminal action or there's just malice, and we definitely can't lump everyone in together. I think it's unfortunate that we have at the federal level a requirement that the overarching issue of immigration be dealt with, and it's not being dealt with. And it falls upon the state to deal with the issue in various instances, whether it's through the registry of motor vehicles, with health care, with housing. So we are left to deal with the neglect that the problem hasn't been solved on the federal level. And my opinion is, while this is being dealt with, and if it were easy, it would have already been solved at the national level, but while it's being solved, we have to deal with the realities on the ground. And I think that we do need to separate out those instances between people that are causing harm and people that want to contribute. when I was a student prosecutor working in the district attorney's office in Woburn, I saw what a waste of judicial energy it was having to process people that were operating a vehicle without a license, and you wish you could just spend your very limited judicial resources and legal resources in a better way than that. I think there are instances where we need to make sure that people are documented. If someone's going to be driving on the road, they should be paying insurance, be paying into our system so that the car is registered, and that's safer for the greater public. If someone needs an immunization or isn't receiving any health care for a communicable disease, that affects everyone in the system. So we can't isolate it and say this doesn't affect us, they all need to go somewhere. We need at the state level interim solutions to deal with the very real realities that aren't going away until the federal government addresses the overarching problem. Thank you.
I think this question is for you. The new Massachusetts healthcare law and act improving the quality of healthcare and reducing costs through increased transparency, efficiency, and innovation passed this month, creating a distressed hospital fund for community hospitals funded by the larger hospital systems that have higher market rates. How would you support an application to this fund from one of your district hospitals?
I think that it was a decent piece of legislation because it addresses some of those issues I was asked about with the uneven Medicaid reimbursement rate. So, whether it was Holy Family or it was Anna Jake's, I would be a leader in making sure that that actually happened and that we're applying the legislation that was passed. That piece of legislation did that, but it also did a number of other things that were positive. It made it so that nurses are no longer required to do overtime, which is a dangerous thing. Nobody wants to be treated by an overtaxed and tired nurse practitioner. It made it so that it created something called accountable care organizations, which are similar in structure to HMOs and PPOs, but the difference is that instead of having fee-for-service, which doesn't necessarily incentivize smart charges and good health care, the accountable services makes it so that healthcare providers are actually focused on achieving good health care and being incentivized by cost savings of good health care. It also required that there were electronic records instead of the scribbly notes that can lead to mistakes and error. So I think that all of those components were good. Some of these things are not mandated, but the bigger question is, how are we, now that we're the only state in the whole country that requires people to have health care and we provide health care, it's a unique situation. How are we going to continue to make that affordable, cost-effective, and not prohibitive to new small businesses and pre-existing businesses that want to be able to offer health care but have trouble affording it right now? So I think that it touches upon all these different elements as a piece of good legislation, but it hasn't fixed everything because in the end we still have community hospitals, teaching hospitals, people that have these big chunks of their budget being eaten away with health care costs, and we're not done yet.
Thank you. I agree that the healthcare system we have in this state is, in my opinion, second to none. With 06 now, led by Mitt Romney, you're looking at coverage of 97 to 98%. As I stated earlier, we do have a lot of work that needs to be done. This cost containment bill that was passed has moved in the right direction. As a senator, I will work diligently in a couple areas. We need to work hard. I mentioned the additional $1.3 billion as far as mandates, particularly in prescription drugs. Things of that nature have really hurt in an area that we need to do some more work on, to say the least. Creating plans, fostering prescription drugs is what needs to happen. We need Massachusetts, which is for a trial period for the next 3 years, is moving in this direction, but we want to make sure that we continue with that platform, move forward with that. Portion of gaming revenue I'd like to see spent on actual health care. Make sure it's not spent on personnel or in more bureaucracy. Make sure it's spent to reduce costs. So those are the areas that I'll be working very, very hard in the legislature to make sure that these things continue and we move in the right direction. Thank you.
Next question is for you, Sean. Salisbury is a small town with specific needs on the fringe of your area. We are accustomed to both state senator and representatives attending several events in Salisbury, including chamber meetings and elder meetings. How do you plan to be present and be responsive to small towns like Suffolk?
Thank you for the question. I've been on the school committee for 9 years. What I tend to be on the local level is extremely accessible. And that's what I hear as I campaign throughout this district is I want, Sean, all I ask is you to be there, work for us, represent us, and be accessible. So to answer your question, Al, I tend to be a senator that is going to work with all the city officials throughout the district, not just Salisbury. I'll be accessible, visible, and quite frankly, by the end of my first term, they'll be getting sick of me, to tell you the truth. So I look forward to working very, very hard and working hard during the budget time to make sure that I can allocate the proper resources to my communities in the 1st Essex District. Thank you.
Jim, you're remark.
Well, I'll tell you, I was one of only 2 candidates that appeared at the Chamber of Commerce meeting in Salisbury the other night. So I make it a point to be at every Chamber of Commerce event, every opportunity that I have to speak with constituents, to speak with the various cities and towns throughout this district. I make it a point to be there, and I don't think I've missed one yet. So I don't think I'm going to plan on missing one as your next state senator. So to answer the question about being president, responsible, and addressing the needs of small towns such as Salisbury, Mr. Ouellette and the rest of the members who are involved in Salisbury can rest assured that James Kalkhorst will be there, and I live actually right on the border of Salisbury and Amesbury, so Monroe Street turns into Main Street, and buy my lumber from Johnson Lumber right across the border. So I've been using a lot of Johnson Lumber's lumber this campaign season with my signs that you see popping up all over the place, especially the big billboard types. So I think the only other person that might be nexting me is either Mr. Tui or Mr. Magliacetti in that department with the big signs and the lumber. But at any rate, I think it's going to be important. In towns such as Salisbury really depend heavily on tourism dollars. And one of the issues that was raised in the last debate on August 20th at Amesbury High School was closing corporate loopholes. Well, if we close those types of corporate loopholes, and I think it was candidate Ives addressed this in one of her discussions that was on YouTube with Mr. Novak over at the Haverhill Community Television, was that closing corporate loopholes such as the film industry and stop giving them tax breaks. Well, I can remember when I used to ask a friend, how many movies, or how come movies aren't even produced here in Massachusetts, or very few are produced here in Massachusetts, the bulk of which are out in California, Los Angeles. That's because in recent years, we've attracted that business, that film here. So if we close those types of corporate loopholes, we're going to lose all those tourism dollars. There's folks that want to come here, see Massachusetts and towns like Salisbury, so I don't think we should do that.
Okay. This next question comes from an audience member. This is for you. Where are you on women's equality in the workplace, wages, and right to choose?
Well, I will tell you right now, as a husband and a son of a wonderful mother who takes care of my 2 wonderful children 3 days a week, I love women. So I'm all for women's rights. Let's just get that out of the way right now. So I don't believe anybody should be discriminated against, whether it be women, whether it be due to the color of your skin, your sexual orientation. It just, that to me is something that those rights should be preserved and protected, and we as just human beings shouldn't even need a law put in place to tell us how we should treat fellow human beings. Regardless, we should have good debates and ferret out issues and have discussions like we're having here today. But at the end of the day, we should always turn to each other, be able to shake hands, pat each other on the back, embrace one another. We're all brothers and sisters on this planet together. So when it comes to women's rights, I can tell you right now, having gone to every single OB appointment with my wife through 2 pregnancies, sat there holding her hand, and she's going to kill me for saying this, seeing my son come out with blue fingers and blue toes after placenta abruptions, and thank God he's okay right now. We just celebrated his first birthday on Sunday. But I can tell you right now that I am well aware of issues facing women, and there's going to be probably next to me, Miss Ives here would know better than me, but next to her, I think I'd be just as good as her, you know, in addressing women's rights. It's very, very important to me, so thank you.
Paul, your rebuttal.
Well, sure. I mean, you know, I brought up earlier, you know, no one could be prouder of their mother than I am. She started as a bench worker at Lucent. She broke through that glass ceiling. She became a full-fledged engineer at Lucent Technology. I mean, that's the example right there. She worked her way through it. I see my two aunts there. They worked at Western Electric, AT&T, and Lucent. You know, they get up at 5 in the morning and they work the full shift till the end of the day to help provide for their families. I see my wife. She works 3, maybe 4 jobs. You know, she helps me at the office. She works retail part-time. She helps with the kids. Her day starts and doesn't end till 10, 11 o'clock at night. No one respects women more than I. I have a 14-year-old daughter who just entered high school. One of the reasons I'm running in this race right now is because I am truly concerned about the future for all of my children. We need to fix things. We need a new course. The system that we have in place right now isn't working. The parties can't seem to get together and get a mutual consensus and do the right thing for the people. They're all concerned with special interests and other things like that. We need to be for the people in the 1st Essex District. And I never understood why people would treat women differently. They do everything that we do in the workplace. I don't understand this whole second-class standard. They shouldn't be. I think one of the things we can do is, once again, you go back to accountability, we look at the laws that are on the books, and we tighten them up. You know, if you're not going to treat women fairly, then you're going to pay the price for it. They should have equal opportunity, equal pay for equal work, and they should have all the benefits of men. And I think we are making a lot of progress to get there. But like I said, I have a lot of respect from Ms. Ives, but I don't think she would treat women any better than I would, because I'm telling you, no one has a mother like I have, and no one has a wife like I have, and that's the reason I'm for women all the way. Thank you.
We're right on schedule as we approach the closing statements. I have one question that comes from the audience that I will ask each of you to answer in 60 seconds. And this is an interesting question given the way Massachusetts House is structured. So let me ask this. What committee would you want to be on and why, if elected? Okay, we'll start with Jim, since there's no rebuttal.
I'll tell you right now, I just want to be on the People's Committee. So on November 6th, I don't think there's, and this is part of my closing, but you know what, I don't want to jump the gun here. There's no other candidate up here tonight that is aware of so many of the various issues facing this district than me. I have a vast background and knowledge in so many different areas. My old football coach at Illinois University used to call me a professional student. And I guess I was, because all kinds of, you know, whatever I encountered, I want to learn more about it. And I just, you know, engrossed myself in the subject and did the very best that I could. So whenever it may be, however, you know, I may end up getting there and rather representing that in a, you know, specific issue or topic or what that may be. I tell you, I will do it the best I can. I will be very aware of the issues, committees. Again, I just want to be on the People's Committee, and thank you very much.
Jim, I'm not going to let you get away without answering the question. What committee are you hoping to be on?
Again, like I said, I would like to be on a committee, I'll tell you, traffic and transportation.
Thank you. Okay. Sean?
Since you're not going to let me get away with an answer that similar to Jim's, I would say something that has to do with Ways and Means would be probably my preference at this point, but I'm certainly going to yield to leadership and serve the best way that I can, not only for the party and as well as the citizens of the 1st Essex District. So that would be the committee. Thank you.
Okay.
If I had the opportunity, I would definitely be vying for community development and small business committees so that we can deliver for the residents of the Merrimack Valley. If that were not an option, I would also be interested in consumer protection and professional licensure, because I do have a small business that's focused. My passion is on consumer protection, and I have an online business pertaining to that, with a lot of very wary products out there in the marketplace, and I think government has to create standards for consumer protection. And last but not least, I'm also very interested in affordability for public higher education in our state, and there's a committee specifically focused on education, and I think that there's a role to play. We in our district have a number of strong community colleges, a massive resource for our students, for adults as well, and we need to make sure that those options remain affordable.
Well, any committee that has anything to do with economic development and finance, and any committee that has to do with education. I think that the two things go hand in hand. Those are the two issues we need to address immediately. We have to get our economy growing. We have to get back to basics. We have to move manufacturing. We have to help small businesses grow. In order to do that, we need a strong educational system. Our education reform laws need to be focused. We have to focus on classroom learning, and we have to focus on vocational skills. When our kids get out of high school, they have to be prepared for college or a job. They can't leave with a diploma and wander around the streets. What do I do now? They have to be prepared. That's how you get everything going. That's how you attract businesses into the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. That's how you grow the economy. That's how all of our kids get jobs. That's how we can give our kids advice on what to study in college. And that's how we will all be able to retire and live comfortably. Thank you very much. Yeah, economic development or education.
Okay. All right, great. Give the candidates a moment to just sit back for a second and think about what we've discussed as they prepare the summation of the evening. Kind of describe who you are again in summation and what it is you bring to the candidacy. I want to thank all of you for being here this evening as they kind of get their thoughts together. It sounds like Paul has half the audience here based on what I've heard so far. Anybody who's not a relative of Paul? I do want to tell you, here tonight I found a bag of M&Ms on the podium. I assumed it was a political bribe. Turns out it was from Jen from the Chamber of Commerce who put this evening together. And I'm a big fan of Jen. Her dad happens to work with us. He called me and wanted to know where I was because I wasn't here yet, and I reminded him to remind Jen that I have another full-time job besides serving at her whim. So I think ventriloquist.
Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. With that, I'm giving you a chance to relax, and so let's start right in order. For number 4.
Again, I want to thank everybody for the opportunity to be here tonight and to address you all. And to discuss all the important issues that are clearly facing our district. On election day, you're going to have the opportunity to either elect a Democrat, Republican, or an independent candidate, somebody who is truly not beholden to anybody's, to any specific interest. And I believe that individual is me, James Kalkorse. I like to take a little something from candidate Ives. She says the next voice in the Senate should be yours. And I can't agree with her more. But I think the only way that that can be accomplished is if you elect somebody such as me who is unenrolled. I will not be beholden to a party. I will only be beholden to you, the people. This isn't about the party, it's about the people. And this next election, I think you're going to make that choice. And I trust that you'll vote for me to be your next state senator to do the very best job that I can going forward for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Al, again, and the Viewer Tribune, as well as all the chambers for sponsoring this debate. I also want to thank my opponents for participating as well. It's been exciting, to say the least. Again, I believe my experience, coupled with my years of experience on the Haverhill School Committee, as well as the Whittier Tech School Committee, will make me an effective and productive member of the Senate. I will go to Beacon Hill to provide the fiscal discipline that I still believe is lacking in the legislature, and also add, as I stated earlier, a much needed balance to the Senate. With only 4 Republicans out of 40 members, there's just not enough debate and challenge. We need a true two-party system so that government can be more effective and efficient. As your state senator, I will be very accessible and work with all the local city officials as well as mayors in my district. Most importantly, I look to serve you, represent you. the 1st Essex citizens. I will be representing this district with transparency, passion, and determination. I ask for your support and vote on September 6th. I will not let you down. Thank you.
Thank you. In less than 45 days, the voters of the district will decide who they want as their next state senator. I'm a firm believer that actions speak louder than promises or rhetoric. I've spent my life trying to proactively problem solve, and have been committed to family, community, and making a positive difference. The Merrimack Valley has a strong history of leadership in the Senate. I want to